The Chase and the Treasure. Forrest said he was compelled to write The Thrill of the Chase. His passion for adventure led to him hiding the treasure. It consumed him. There are many stories he gives us in the 15 years leading up to the chase. Why he intentionally made mistakes in TTOTC. What happens when he announces it has been found. Why the best thing for Forrest is if the finder remains anonymous and does not reveal the location. And in the end, he was tired of it all.
If you go through your life and you're never compelled to do something, then you deserve another turn. I was compelled to do that treasure story. I was compelled to go to Vietnam. I just felt like I had to volunteer. I had 2 young daughters and a wife at home. I mean, for a year, what do you pay? What do they pay? But I felt compelled to do that, and I tell. When you really fall in love, you're compelled to marry that woman. Yeah. But I don't know. I haven't been compelled to do very many things, but I was compelled to do that treasure thing. I thought about it a lot. I fabricated that book like an architect will draw drawings, but it looks like a very clever person wrote that book. Some of the things that are said in that, but that book was crafted. I mean, that's not a 15-minute thing. It looks like it.
Everything that you need to know to find the treasure is in that poem.
There are 9 clues in that poem, and you can go, if you can figure out the clues. It's not easy, because if it was easy, anybody could do it, and I didn't want that. But a guy that sits down and, what we don't do today is think. We skip along the surface instead of diving under the water. Mm-hmm. And a person that's willing to sit down and think with a cup of coffee and turn the phone off and chase the kids out, you can figure that thing out. And the person that can do that may find that chest. Always been somewhere in my past, my ancestors, there's a pirate. I love treasures. I love to find things. There's the thrill of the chase. You can't sum it up better than that. There's a thrill in doing it. That's what gold mining is all about. That's what arrowhead hunting is all about. And as of this morning, I've responded to like 2,650 something emails. How many writers do you know that put their email address in the front of their book? I may be the only one. I hold a world's record for doing that. And so these people send me emails, and I've had 12 or 1,500 emails from guys that say, Mr. Fenn, we know we're not going to find the treasure, but I want to thank you for getting me and my kids off the couch and out into the countryside. And you asked me why I wrote the book? I mean, I could give you 100 reasons. That's 2 or 3 right there. I wonder and I said in the book, the Rosetta Stone was 2,000 years before somebody found it. And I said in my book, don't you know the guy that carved that thing is proud of himself? So if nobody finds my treasure for 2,000 years, that's okay with me. I've made all of these bells, ding-a-ling, and around the outside of them I've said things, imagination is more important than knowledge, quoting Einstein. One bell says, if you should ever think of me 1,000 years from now, please ring my bell so I will know. I thought that was clever. And 10,000 years from now, when the Chinese have moved over here, somebody's going to dig up that bell, and they're going to say, good Lord, who is this guy Fenn? I mean, it's dated, and it has my signature on it. They can Google me. They're going to know who Forrest Fenn is because of my books, and they're going to say, yeah, Forrest. There's a thrill in that. I mean, When I worked on this poem for 15 years. Every noun I looked up in the dictionary to see exactly what the meaning was. This is not something that happened overnight. When you read it, you think, Forrest wrote that thing in 3 minutes. That's not true. I worked on it for 15 years. I thought I was going to die. They told me I was going to die with cancer. And so after all those emotions sinked in and passed by, I asked myself, who says that I can't take it with me? And so that you can see how these things come around. Of course I can affect the future. I cast a number of bells I've hit in jars that have my autobiography in them. I've buried them way out in the desert. I couldn't even go back myself to the mountain places where I buried those bells in jars with screw-on lids that are made out of bronze, and I made all of them myself. And sometime, a couple of 100 years or 1,000 years from now, somebody's going to be digging in the mountains, in the Rocky Mountains, and they're going to come across one of my bells that they have sayings on them. All of them do in raised letters, and they're dated, and they have my name on them. And 500 years from now, when somebody finds one of the things, I say, God, this guy Forrest Fenn made this thing in 2004. Look at this. Who says I can't affect the future? Don't tell me I can't do these things. Well, I spent 15 years collecting that stuff. And you find gold nuggets at gun shows, at arrowhead shows, in antique shops, different places. The gold coins, it took me a long time to get gold, 265 gold coins. Some of those gold coins are from the Middle East, and they're dated in the 1500s. So I wanted this a collection that was not only visual, but it was valuable enough to want people to put some gas in the pickup truck and go out there and look for it. When I was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 1988, when the novelty of that wore off, it took about 2 weeks, I decided that if I've got to go, I am going to take it with me. So I got this beautiful treasure chest, and I started filling it with things. It's not easy to find gold. I'd go to gun shows and Indian shows and arrowhead shows, and there's gold nuggets over there, and I'd buy them and put them in this treasure chest. There are hundreds and hundreds, I hope I'm not exaggerating, of gold nuggets in that treasure chest. 2 of them are as big as a chicken egg, weigh more than a troy pound each. And then there are some that weigh half a pound, a third of a pound, or 25 grams or whatever. I mean, I got a list of all that stuff. There are 265 gold coins. Most of them are American eagles and double eagles. There's a few $1 gold coins. Can you imagine a $1 gold coin? You can hardly see it. It's so small. It's like 3/8 of an inch. But there's some of those in things. There are some Middle Eastern gold coins that are dated in the 1400s. I mean, I collected all. Any time I could find something like that, I bought it and put it in a treasure chest. There's lots of gems in there. There's some pre-Columbian gold, gold bracelets, and I wanted it to be visual enough to strike somebody's fancy, somebody to tell themselves, yeah, I'm going to go look for this. And I wanted it to be valuable enough for the same reason. And when somebody finds that treasure chest and puts it on their lap and raises the lid, I would like to be there with the camera to record their expressions. And I think they're either going to faint, or they're going to start laughing, or they're going to say, oh my, I kept my treasure chest in my vault here, and I showed it to hundreds of people that came to see me. Every one of them have the same reaction. It's astounding to the point of being atrocious almost. I don't know what that word means, but I think it fits the situation of this guy, I think in Wisconsin, that has duplicated my treasure chest. Have you seen that?
No.
He's casting it in bronze. It's a 25-minute video exactly how he casts it. And I sent him an email last night asking him to make me one. Won't he charge me to make me one? He has a mold, and he's a pretty good artist, and it looked just like my treasure chest. Same size. And he goes through the entire process of casting that thing from making the mold all the way up.
What's he going to do with them?
Huh?
What's he going to do with them?
I don't know, but I'll ask him.
He must be. I guess he's
Well,
going.
he's an artist. He has a professional foundry, and I'm sure it's a commodity to him. And I want to buy one if I can afford it. I made some arrangements, and I said I found that chest, and when I found that beautiful chest, that was the catalyst, because it was so beautiful, and I said that's the way to go. And I went to gun shows in different places, and I started buying gold, big nuggets. There's 20.2 troy pounds of gold in that chest, and there's all kinds of bracelets with diamonds and rubies and emeralds and different things. And I said, that's okay. That's what I want to do. If I've got to go, I'm going to take this with me. But that's not the end, because you're coming up behind me, and I want you to look at me and say, if he can do that, I can do that. I'm going to go find his chest. And I can't tell you how many people have sent me emails that said, Mr. Fenn, if I find that chest, I'm going to take some of it out, and then I'm going to go hide it in another place and write another poem. And I probably had 50 people that have sent me an email that said that.
You have written poems. In fact, there's a very important poem in the book. Why a poem?
Which one? There's several.
Well, the one with the clues.
The one with the clues, I had to have a highway to get from the treasure chest to you. There has to be some kind of movement. You just can't say Shazam and be there. So I wrote a poem over a 15-year period. I changed that poem. That poem was not written. It was crafted. And I can't tell you how many times I fretted and thought and changed one word. One word can change the entire meaning of the poem. There are 9 poems in that, nine clues in that poem. And I tell people, read my book, just read it. Then read the poem 8 or 10 times, memorize the poem. And then go back and read my book again real slow, looking for hints in the text that will help you with the clues. The text is not going to take you to the treasure. The clues in the poem will take you to the treasure. But there are subtle hints in the text that will help you with the clues. And if you don't find the chest for 10,000 years, that's fine. They're still looking for the lost Dutchman mine down in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. That's okay with me. But if I can cause some excitement, some intrigue, some mystery, get some teenagers off the couch, away from their iPads, then I'm successful in what I've done.
You just said something that was, I thought, terribly interesting. You just said that you'd been writing that poem for 15 years. Does that mean that you had that place in mind to hide a treasure for 15 years?
Sure.
Okay, good enough.
But you see, when I was diagnosed with cancer in 1988, they told me I was going to die. Well, what they said was, you got a 20% chance of living 3 years. They're telling me I'm going to die. And you go through all your emotions, shock, disbelief, anger, you name it. You go through all of them. It took me about 10 days or 2 weeks to get to the bottom. And when I got to the bottom, I said, okay, you guys, if that's the way you're going to play, I'm just not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it my own way. If I've got to go, I'm going to take it with me. And a friend of mine and a client of mine was Ralph Lauren. And he was in my house here one time, and we were looking at some things, and he said, I want to buy that. I said, Ralph, I don't want to sell it. He said, well, you can't take it with you. And without thinking, I said, well, then I'm not going. And when he left, we all laughed. His wife laughed, his kids laughed, and that was a pretty good joke. But after they left that night, I started thinking about it, and I thought about it for years. And the fact is that I know I'm going to have to go, but if I have to go, I'm going to. It's not that I can't go, but I can take it with me. And so I decided that I was going to find a treasure chest, fill it up with gold and jewels and precious antiques. And I thought I was going to die. And I told myself that when I get close to the end, I'm going to go out, I'm going to hide this treasure chest, and I'm going to lay down beside it, and we're going to spend a few millennia there together. And my father had pancreas cancer. They gave him 6 months to live. 18 months later, he refused to take any kind of pain pills. That's the way he was. He called me on the phone one night and he said, Forrest, I'm going to take 50 sleeping pills tonight. I said, well, Dad, I'll be there first thing in the morning. I had an airplane. I said, I'll be there first thing in the morning. He said, that's too late. And I was there first thing in the morning, and it was too late. But I respected him. And so many people, churches, are against a person taking their own life for religious reasons, for moral reasons, and all sorts of reasons. But the fact is, there's something to be said for doing things on your own terms. Instead of somebody else making the rules for you, why don't you make your own rules? Why don't you be positive instead of being negative? Why would you sit down and let somebody else do it when you can do it yourself? I mean, it's the most positive thing in the world when you know you're going to die. Are you going to lay in a hospital bed that give you a temporary postponement? I mean, is that, don't talk to me about those things. If I'm in a hospital room and I have 6 breaths left in me, I'm going to get up and run outside. And when I wrote that poem, I thought I was going to die. And the last couple of sentences, leave my bones alone, just take the chest and go. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, people are going to jump all over me if they hear me saying this on your video there, but I don't care. I mean, I want to do things my way. I don't want some doctor deciding when I'm going to die, or a nurse coming in and taking my pulse all the time. I mean, that's no way to live. No way to do it at all. I have a lot of respect for my father for doing what he did. He had everything planned. What songs would be singing at his funeral, who was going to sit where, who was going to talk, and had it all written down. What's wrong with doing it your own way? And that's why I kept changing the poem. Every time it's an idiosyncrasy of human nature to think and plan and anticipate. And eventually come to a conclusion of your own making. What's wrong with that? I wrote that book for every redneck that lost his job, has a wife and 7 kids, and a pickup truck, and needs the money, and has an adventurous heart. That's who I wrote it for, and that's who I hope finds it. If a guy has guts enough to strike the trail, then in my book he's eligible to find it. At the same time, I've said in my book that the treasure is hidden in the Rocky Mountains north of Santa Fe. And I'm not going to tell the Indians that it's not on Indian land. I'm not going to tell the Forest Service it's not on Forest Service land. I'm not going to tell some rancher out there it's not on his land. It's in the Rocky Mountains. And I'm not going to narrow the search down. I don't expect people to go with backhoes out there and start digging up the countryside. I get lots of emails from people that told me they moved all the rocks and they couldn't find the treasure chest, but I don't know where they were, but if they didn't own the property, they were doing something wrong. If I said it wasn't in the national park and it wasn't on Forest Service land, BLM, Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Reclamation, private property, Indian land, where is it then? But the water gets real muddy fast. I always knew where I was going to put the treasure, but I didn't always know exactly how I was going to do it, or when, or under what conditions. How did the weather affect me? But I thought about it a lot, and I thought about whether I was going to take my camera with me or not. Is somebody going to follow my GPS on my camera? I figured that there are all kinds of ramifications. My wife doesn't know within 18 months of when I hid the treasure. She didn't know I was writing the book, The Thrill of the Chase. I'm sitting here with my laptop. She's sitting over there reading, and I'm always working on my computer. I've written a number of books sitting right here in my laptop. And she knew I had the treasure chest. I mean, for a while I had some of her jewelry in there. But before I had the treasure chest, I took all of her stuff out because I didn't bury her stuff. But the treasure chest is 10 inches by 10 inches and 5 inches high. Well, it just so happened that I've written 2 books that are 10 inches by 10 inches and about 3/4 of an inch thick. So in my vault, I had this treasure chest in there, and I take a lot of people in my vault because a lot of my things, Indian things, are in there. So I covered the treasure chest up with a red bandana. And when I took the treasure out to hide it, I put the treasure chest in my car, and I took I took 5 or 6 of my books that are 10 inches by 10 inches. I put them where the treasure chest was, and I covered it up with the red bandana. So my wife and my daughters are going in my vault, and they see that red bandana there, and they're thinking, well, the treasure chest is still there, you know. One day, my wife got some kind of hint from somebody, went in there and jerked the bandana off, and there's books there instead of the treasure chest. She said, "Forrest, where's the treasure?" But she's comfortable. All my family is comfortable with what I've done. The type of person that's going to find that treasure chest is the type of person that can't keep it quiet. On the other hand, there are a number of people out there probably that if they find that treasure chest and they start thinking about the IRS and the publicity, they're going to think it's really not in my best interest to letting nobody know that I found this thing. When I had that treasure chest and walked back to my car, it was totally out of my hands. I'm of no consequence anymore. For 15 years, I kept telling myself I was going to do this. But in the back of my mind, it was a fantasy. This is atrocious. Forrest, what are you thinking? But I kept getting closer and closer and closer, and I went out there and I had the treasure chest, and it was pretty heavy for me to carry, and so I made 2 trips. And the last time I was walking back to my car, there was nobody around any place. In a loud voice, I said, "Forrest Fenn, did you really do that?" And I started laughing. And I told myself, I said, well, if I get hider's remorse and I'm sorry, I can go back and get it. But then the more I thought about it, the more I enjoyed myself. I love the fact that I'm the only one that knows where it is, and that I've started a fire under the imagination of a lot of people. I didn't think anybody would be interested because I've written 9 or 10 books, and they've not been commercially successful. And so why should my memoir be successful? So I printed 1,000 copies only. The treasure chest is difficult to find, but it certainly isn't impossible. I don't think somebody's going to go out on a Sunday afternoon picnic and find a treasure chest. I haven't released any clues that will take somebody to the treasure. Like I said, it's below 5,000 feet. Well, that's a clue, but it's not going to take you to the treasure. I don't think I've said anything, and I don't intend to say anything that'll take you to the treasure. I certainly don't plan to. I hope I don't give anything away accidentally. It's the thrill of the chase. It's gotten to the point where it's not so much finding the money with these guys. Is they hate to be a loser. They hate to give up. People have been pretty close, but the people that have been the closest don't know that they were close. But they tell me where they were, and I tell myself that they're close. There's 10% of me that wants to help them, but the 90% supersedes the 10%. But since I had my kidney removed and almost died of cancer, the biology of my body is diabolically opposed to what it was before my operation. I was a hunter. I killed buffalo and mountain lion and elk and deer and moose and bear, lots of dove and quail and ducks and things. After my operation, I just told myself I'm not going to do that anymore. Why? And I remember one time I asked myself, why would a wealthy man, climb to the top of the mountain to shoot the world's record mountain sheep when all he wanted was the skull to bring home? What is it idiosyncratic about the Homo sapien as a species that makes us think like that? And I have a young granddaughter, and we're out on my patio the day. There's a bunch of red ants out there. She was stomping on the red ants. And I asked her, I said, "Are those red ants bothering you?" I mean, she didn't even think about it. And I did the same thing when I was a kid. I did things that I'm not even going to tell you about that I'm so ashamed of. But I think it's in the genes. I don't know. The Bible says there will always be wars and rumors of wars. And Plato said, only the dead will know the end of wars. I certainly don't have those answers, but I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in a lot of things that is in our makeup. I would like to say Shazam, nobody bothers anybody else again.
What's different about your philosophy about the thrill of the chase book?
The thrill of the chase book was personal. The rest of it was business. I made money theoretically in all of my books except the thrill of the chase, and I'm going to lose a bunch on that.
Yeah.
but it's a different time frame. My mindset is different. My age is different, and my motives are different.
Mm-hmm.
I was churning when I was writing that short book. That was 1982.
When I guess what I'm kind of curious, and you and I had this conversation a long time ago, but I guess I'm kind of curious about why, if the thrill of the chase, if it's not important to get the information and the thrill of the chase out, because it would be valuable to have 3,000 people looking for the treasure next summer.
Now, why do you say it would be valuable? Where's the value?
Well, not to me personally.
Where is it to me?
Well, it's your name out there.
That was never one of my motives. That's why I turned down the Today Show. I would not have been going on NBC News if it were not for Gaddy Schwartz.
Okay, but let me ask you something. If that's the case, I think that much of this its roots are immortality.
Say that again. It's
The
what
root-
kind of mortality?
It goes back to the grave in Vietnam. You don't want people to not mention your name in 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, but I've written 9 books. I mean,
But if that was the case, you wouldn't have bothered with the thrill of the chase, if you were satisfied with that.
no, I didn't get the idea for the thrill of the chase until I thought I was going to die, and I wanted to take it with me. I wanted somebody else to have the same. I wanted 10 million people to have the same thrill that I had when I found something wonderful.
Well, then doesn't it make sense that if the more and more you can get that word out about the treasure and about you, the more likely in 500 years people are still going to be looking for the treasure?
There's certainly that. Yeah, I mean that, of course, and that's why I'm bearing the bells and my autobiography. For the same reason, nobody's going to find those things for 1,000 years. I mean, they're not a road for 20 miles out there someplace. I mean, I'm driving across a desert or something in some of those cases. Just no placeville. But in a place where erosion is not going to wash it away, and you get kind of tired of doing those things, so you just.
Yeah, I noticed those bells have been there for a while. You haven't got them out there yet.
No, but I've got 8 of them out there.
Okay.
I keep those just to show to people, but I hope, and I've got another 15.
Yeah. But I guess my point is, why isn't it good? Why isn't it valuable to get that book out in as many hands as possible?
Well, I did not realize. I was hoping for somebody like Newsweek to come along, and they did. I was thrilled because the fuse is out there. I need something to light the fuse, and Newsweek did that. So no matter what I do from now on, it's not stoppable. There's nothing. The only thing I could do to stop it was say is go out there and get it, bring it in, and say the game's over. That would stop it. Everybody would be mad at me. A bunch of people sue me probably, but I'm not going to do that. And until that chest is found, there's nothing I can do to stop the PR. I mean, all these 11 reality shows. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. I mean, it's perfect for them.
Well, it isn't, because they want somebody to find the treasure.
But why could it not be a serial? People go out and look, and they.
That's what I wanted. That's why I was trying to
But
convince the
it's-
Canadians to do
Those
it.
people have their eye on the bottom line, and
Yeah.
nobody would watch it week after week if there's no climax.
That's right. If at some point somebody isn't going to find it.
Yeah.
But the people who watch this don't know that nobody's going to find it. So you could do a series of 10. And if they were airing now and I shot it last week, folks wouldn't know whether or not for sure this guy wasn't going to find the treasure.
Well, I talked to this one guy about that. I said, there's an adventure in looking. You don't have to find it. I mean, a lot of guys go hunting. They don't get their elk, but they have a hell of a good time doing it. And I don't don't think anybody's going to find that treasure chest for a while.
Yeah.
They're not going to find it when the Rocky Mountains is covered with snow.
But I guess
There's you know, I said in my book, I talked about Longfellow. The lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints in the sand of time. I think that's why Oswald shot Kennedy. I think a lot of things. These guys that are killing high school kids or grammar school kids, they want their name in the paper. I think that has something to do with it, even though they kill themselves at the end. But what the hell do I know? I mean, everybody has a different take on it. Well, I asked for it, and so I don't have a complaint.
That's true. You did ask for it. That is true. Although you probably didn't think it would get this bad.
No, I didn't. But I didn't anticipate that if it did get this bad, I didn't anticipate being tired of it getting this bad.
Right.
I've gotten as many as 8 or 10 emails a day from certain people, and I'll write them and I'll say, enough, please, give me a break, and I sign and I never hear from them again. So it's not impossible, but I don't want to make somebody mad and they start yelling that the whole story's a hoax and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're a social person. See, if it was me, I wouldn't even be responding to them.
Well, I can be a beer drinker without being a drunk.
You think the treasure? How does the treasure hunt affect this?
Affect me? Affected my life 100% or more. Everything I do today is as a result of that treasure chest, and it was fun to begin with, but I'm trying to figure out now how I can get out. I wrote you an email a few months ago that said, please announce that I'm pulling back. I don't want any more emails. And I never did send the email. How can I get out now? I mean, look here, since we started talking, there's 35 emails. I don't want to get out. I just don't want I don't want to be a part of everybody. You could go back to Washington and say, I just spent a couple of days with Forrest and we had some long talks, and I'm writing his Does anybody know you're writing my biography? I've kept that quiet.
Well, you apparently told Cynthia.
Did I? Well, I don't think that's important. We could do that. But you could make the statement that Forrest is 89 years old, he's tired, his wife's not well, and he's trying to figure out how he can pull back. I would like to get 10 or 12 emails a day. I'm tired of emails from people I don't know.
But the thing is, if we made that announcement, I bet you'd get 3 times as many emails.
Well, I did make that announcement a couple of years ago that I was pulling back. I didn't say I was quitting. I said I was pulling, and it shut about half of them down.
Did it?
Yeah.
That surprises me, because it seems like searchers are like everybody else. They're just going to take, I better write an email quick.
Well, I could announce that I'm not going to read any more emails. Well, I don't want to stop reading emails. I don't want to lie to the people, but there must be a way to slow all that up.
I mean,
I don't want to chit-chat. I get an email, Forrest, what's your favorite color?
yeah, I know. Why not? I know that this is hard, but why not change your email? Why not drop those emails?
Block them? Well, I want an email from Doug Preston and Larry Burke and those
But you
guys.
could tell them that you have a new email. But I know that that's hard, but really and truly, that's about the only way to do it.
No, another way to do it is just not read any of them. Just I get it and I delete it without even knowing who it came from. What's wrong with that?
Well, that doesn't reduce the amount of...
No, but it solves the problem. See, here's emails here. And so what I'm doing now is going down the list. This morning I woke up with 84 emails in my inbox, and then the damn thing rings every 3 or 4 minutes. What I'm doing is just going down, and if I recognize the name, I delete it because I know it's not going to say anything. But there have been some people that said some things that got my attention. And so I want to read those emails. I want to know when somebody's getting close. I don't know why I want to know that because I'm not going to do anything. I don't dare answer the email. If I answer, that might be a signal to him that he's close. And if I don't answer it, well, that's just a routine thing, you know. So normally I don't answer those things, but I look for that name. Somebody's going to find that treasure chest. And I don't want to get an email from that guy and not read it.
Right. I understand that.
The smart thing for somebody that finds that treasure chest, like I said, is put it on your bed for 30 days and think, and then slowly start dissipating what's in the contents. Sell them. You can sell anything in there without anybody being alerted except those 2 big gold nuggets. People will recognize those. We'll sit on those for 15 years, and then what's going to happen when I announce that the treasure chest has been found?
Are
people going to believe it?
Oh, there'll always be people who won't believe it. But I think the majority of the people, if it comes from you, are absolutely going to believe it.
If you found the treasure chest and didn't want me to know it, it would be the easiest thing in the world to make up a new email address and send it to me. Tell me the things that I need to know that tell me that you have found a treasure chest. You don't want me to know who you are. That's the best thing that can happen to me, because I don't want the pressure on me. If I don't know who you are, there's no pressure on me.
That's right.
And regardless of who finds it, I hope they won't ever say where they found it. Everybody in the world's going to be mad if you don't tell me where you found it. My God, I've spent $100 million. I've made 500 trips out there, and you won't tell me where you found it?
And why don't you want them to tell where they found it?
Because I think it's going to cause some people trouble. If it's on private property, the landowner is going to be madder than hell. If it's on government land, well, they're going to arrest you. If it's on an Indian reservation, you won't last 30 minutes with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you another question that's been hounding. I keep getting. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I don't know if you want to talk about it. If you don't, that's fine. But you said at one point, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but basically it was leave your partner in the car. You remember that?
People misconstrue what I meant. What I mean is that if you've got a partner and the 2 of you out here hunting and one of them finds it and the other one doesn't, there's going to be a problem.
Oh.
Well, you didn't sign a contract. What was well, you were going to give me 50%. No, I wasn't going to give you half of that. That's why I say if you know where the treasure is, take a partner out there, but leave him in the car. Don't let him be part of the found. I mean, people are signing elaborate contracts with each other.
I know.
Now they're going to divide it up. That's what I meant by that, but people thought I meant something else.
Well, they were trying. Most of the people that I read, when that discussion comes up, they're scratching their head trying to figure out what it means.
Well, another thing I said, if you've got a partner, one of you is going to be shopping at JCPenney and the other one at Gucci's. Because you're going to lie. I'm going to tell you, no, I didn't find that treasure chest. Forget that I just bought a new house and a yacht. And if you find a treasure chest, let me know that you found it. Keep your identity secret and shut up and go. If the IRS finds out about it, first of all, you've got to tell them what it's worth, which means you're going to spend $30,000 or $40,000 with an appraiser. And then the IRS is not going to believe it. They're going to confiscate it, get their own appraisers. It's going to be 10 times what your appraiser appraised it at. And now where are you? You're in court and back and forth all over the front page of the New York Times. Everything says, find it and shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Okay.
You don't. The word in Washington is, if you're under oath, don't say that you don't know, because they'll prove that you do know. Say you don't remember.
Right.
Hillary gave a deposition and said she didn't remember 142 times.
Yeah.
Cheney was the same way.
Yeah. I can't.
You don't remember.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
Having said that.
I don't remember what century I had that car wreck. You might write it. Just a second.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to screw this up. You might write an editorial that talks about that philosophy, using an abstract name, that here's what's going to happen if you announce, if everybody knows you found the treasure chest. Here's what's going to happen if nobody knows it. And I don't dare say, don't report it to the IRS, because now I'm a co-conspirator.
Right.
And that may have legal ramifications. So I'm very careful about not saying, and I never advise anybody.
My theory, when I imagine that I might actually find this thing, I've always said, well, I'd throw it in the back of Esmeralda, throw a blanket over it, and I'd drive to Santa Fe, because I want to know about the provenance of all these things that are in here. I want to know where they came from.
It's not worth the trip down here. First of all, I can't tell you where I got it. I know where I got those two Chinese things. I bought them from a dealer. You've got nothing. All of the gold coins and the gold nuggets I got at gun shows from Joe Smith. Who cares? There's some gold bracelet, pre-Columbian gold bracelets and things I bought from traders. I don't even remember. I mean, I can't tell you anything.
Okay. Well, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just shut up. Like I told you before, that's very private conversation.
Right.
Read me what the poem says, and the game's over. You don't need to tell me you found a treasure chest. Just read me the poem.
Right.
That answers all the questions.
Right. Okay.
And I don't need to know who you are. And it's easy for me to give you a $1,000 bill and a $500 bill. That's easy without me knowing who you are. I'll put it in my mailbox at 12:06 on Thursday, and I want you to pick it up at 12:07. I'm not going to be watching. You can wear a mask if you want to, drive a rental car.
Right.
There's 1,000 ways to make that work.
There are plenty of people you can ask about how to do that
Yeah.
if you can't think of one yourself.
The thing about it is, Sometimes I think somebody's fixing to find it. Then the next day I tell myself it's going to be 100 years. Just because you walk 50 feet from it doesn't mean you're going to find it.
Well, I'm glad you straightened out that leave your partner in the car thing. That's been dumbfounding everybody for quite a while.
You know, you can have a very best friend until there's big money involved. Then it's every man for himself.
On a much, much smaller basis, we get that on the blog all the time. The first thing people do when they read one of your posts is look for errors so that they can be the first one to report an error. You know, I mean...
And that's why I've made legitimate mistakes just for that purpose. That Safford, New Mexico thing was an honest mistake. I thought Safford was in New Mexico.
Yeah. Well, I was...
But beyond that, why would anybody research it? What's to be gained? It's a hint because I named the wrong state. I mean, is that going to take you to the treasure? I mean, Arizona's not even in the Rocky Mountains, for Christ's sake.
I like... what was it? Somebody said... Oh, yeah. So the reason that you had to leave your partner in the car was because it was no place for the meek, and it was obviously where there were grizzly bears, and if you wanted your partner to survive, you had to leave him in the car.
That was not my reason for saying that.
I know that wasn't your reason, but I mean, just how these
About
ideas...
the same time, I made the comment that if the treasure chest is found, you and your partner find a treasure chest, you're going to be shopping at J.C. Penney's and you're going to be shopping at Gucci's.
You were talking about how you make us mistakes on purpose. And
I do that as a defensive maneuver. It allows me some latitude.
how?
If I make a mistake and it's pretty obvious, then I can make a mistake that's accidental, that's not obvious, and get by with it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's valid, isn't it?
Yeah, I get that. That does make sense.
That was my thing about that in the Thrill of the Chase about Hemingway and
The books, yeah.
I knew it wasn't For Whom the Bell Tolls. It was the Spanish Revolution or whatever. I knew that, and I still do that kind of thing. That's why I make up words and corrupt words, use words wrong. I used a word in that blog last night that was used incorrectly. Deference, D-E-F-E-R-E-N-C-E. If you look that word up, it doesn't mean exactly how I used it.
Sure. Yeah.
And Thrill of the Chase, another one, I said, tenacity was not one of my shortcomings. That's a terrible corruption on that word. Has nothing to do, but everybody knew what I meant,
That's
and that's my argument. I had this discussion with Murray Gelbon, and he laughed about it. But he was a scientist, you know. Scientists can't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Scientists have to be, and
There's
they'll
no
write,
freedom.
and they'll write a book, and the publisher will send it to 20 different other scientists to okay the book. George Friesen hates that because none of the guys that review his book know as much about it as he does, and the publisher is calling him on something where Friesen is the expert on that subject. It doesn't work. That's why I never wanted, when I wrote my 2 biographies on Joseph Sharp, there's a short bibliography and there's a few footnotes. But every one of them reverts back to a document that I own and nobody has ever seen. In other words, you can never research my bibliography and say I'm wrong because I've got the document and you've never seen it.
That's good. That's good.
That's a good thing for you to say in your biography.
Well, I noticed that, and you've been doing that for a long time. I noticed
Yeah.
on that Sharp, not Sharp, on the John Ehrlichman paperback that I bought, your inscription, you used there, T-H-E-I-R, very obviously the wrong word.
I've done that before.
Yeah, I mean, and so that goes back to, when was that? 80.
But I had an editor, Charmaine Allred. Have you met her?
I haven't met her, but
She was my partner. She was a legal editor. She was an editor. She made that same mistake several times. Just spell it wrong. Some of the mistakes I made are made by spell check, and not me.
Right.
I'll click on a word, but I don't go back and check it, and this word has nothing to do with. Came out of left field.
Or sometimes it corrects your word as you're typing, and you're just typing, and that it has turned that word into some other word, and you're 3 lines later, and you didn't go back and read that.
Yeah.
You know, I run into that all the time.
Yeah.
You used to be able, when spell check first came out, you used to be able to turn it off. Now it's getting harder and harder to turn it off.
I don't want to turn it off. I like it.
I would like to turn it off because I feel that it makes more errors in my writing than I make.
Well, I think it's important 100 years from now, if somebody reads my work, I want them to see that this is the real Forrest Fenn that wrote this, and the editor didn't write this book.
Well, that's an interesting concept. It's a brand, isn't it?
Huh?
It's a brand. It's
the-
almost like a copyright.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth
No,
of
but I
that.
mean that with you making mistakes in it, it becomes your brand. Oh, I know that's a Forrest Fenn piece.
And it identifies me as an individual rather than somebody correcting my mistakes.
Or spell check.
The guy I was trying to think about last night at dinner was William F. Buckley.
Oh yeah.
Nobody would dare edit him. I mean, the president of the company doesn't dare edit William F. Buckley. He never made a mistake. If you try to edit him, he'll prove to you where he was right and you're wrong, and you're a professional editor. He'd get on a train for an hour and not know what his subject, had a column every day. He'd get off the train, the column was finished, he turned it in and went for coffee. Nobody would dare edit him. Maybe the only person in the world that was true of. I don't know of anybody else. But you're not supposed to violate the rules. But I have to ask myself, in the big picture of Yellowstone Park, how important is a 2-foot hole dug in the ground? Forget the fact that it's against the law. I mean, what's your sentence? You get 30 days in jail, or you get 20 years, or what do you get for digging a 12-inch hole in Yellowstone Park? I mean, I think we should keep these things in perspective. And I expect the National Park Service to come see me. And I'm going to cooperate with them. I don't want anybody violating the law, and I certainly don't want them lost and that sort of thing. Now, wait a minute, what is this thing?
It's just an audio recorder.
Is this a pretty good one?
Yeah.
How much you pay for it?
I don't know, $100, $150.
Because I need one. I want one here if the Park Service comes to see me. I want to record all that.
Okay.
What is this called? Tascam?
It's a Tascam. Yeah, I'll get you one. I'll send it to you if you want.
Well, we've got a Radio Shack here. I could probably get a Radio Shack, huh?
I don't think so, but you can get them off eBay. You want me to order you one
Yeah,
and have it sent here?
yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm going to point it toward you.
Okay.